The dayspring from on high hath visited us, to give light unto them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. Dayspring is an effort to be in touch with good people who love God and who believe that the Bible is His Word. Dayspring is brought to you by your neighbors from Churches of Christ in this area. And now, visit with us as we draw near to God.
Thank you for being our guest today. We enjoy your company. And it's so good to sit down in a quiet time and open God's book and let it speak. Some time back, I talked to you about Noah. Noah built the ark out of gopher wood. Somewhere in the process of that lesson, I made mention of the claim that it was not any other kind of wood. And one of the kinds of woods I mentioned was cypress. I received correspondence from a nice gentleman who corrected me and expressed the opinion that gopher wood and cypress are the same. I appreciate his comment about that so very much. And he claimed to be an expert in trees, and he knew that to be a fact, and so I appreciated that correspondence. And I would very much enjoy if he would send me some documentation so I would know that for sure, that gopher and cypress are the same kind of wood. I'm directing your attention today to the book of Exodus. I'll read one verse to start with in Exodus chapter 19, and we shall go from there. Verse 8 of Exodus 19, all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. Well, let me turn to Exodus chapter 4 and read a few verses there. In Exodus chapter 4, at verse 29, Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spake all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed. And when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshipped. The attitude of those people when Moses and Aaron came to Egypt to rescue them, they were very impressed. And they bowed their heads and worshipped God because he had seen their affliction and was taking steps to correct it. Now back to Exodus chapter 19, where I shall begin reading at verse 3. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken will we do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. Exodus 19 and verse 8, underscore that verse. All the people answered and said together, All that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. That very appropriate response stands out. But now I'm turning over. At that time, they did not even know what the Lord required of them. It had not yet been revealed. Moses was about to go back up in the mountain and find out. He did. Then he came back down. And a few chapters later in Exodus, in chapter 24 of Exodus, let me begin reading at verse 3. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments. Now they know. Here's what the Lord requires. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said will we do. There's that same good attitude again. All the Lord hath said will we do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings, and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood, and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant, and read in the audience of the people. And they said, All that the Lord hath said will we do, and be obedient. There's our phrase again, all the Lord hath said will we do. And Moses took the blood, and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold the blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. He sprinkled the blood of animals on the heads of those people, as well as on the book of the covenant. And he said, This is the official inauguration, the dedication. Now, you are officially under that covenant which God gave me up in the mountain. An interesting passage over in the book of Hebrews. In Hebrews chapter 9, the Bible says, beginning at verse 18, Whereupon neither the first testament, that's that one Moses received from God, whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. He sprinkled the blood of the animals on that covenant, as well as on the heads of the people. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water, scarlet wool, and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament which God hath enjoined unto you. Now it's official. Those people were sprinkled with the blood, and the book of the covenant was sprinkled with the blood, and that was the official dedication. That was the time when God said, Now, you are to live by this covenant. Well, another interesting passage there in Hebrews, the next chapter, in Hebrews chapter 10, and at verse 22. The Bible says, Let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us now, in this dispensation, draw near with a true heart, in full assurance of faith, having had our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience. What does that refer to? Well, of course, figuratively, when a person becomes a Christian, he officially dedicates himself, promises to live by the Lord's New Testament. And it's at that time when the blood of Christ is sprinkled on that person's heart, thus dedicating that person to live by the New Testament. Jesus said, "This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." So think about it. When a person becomes a Christian, he is officially, in a figurative sense, sprinkled with the blood of Christ, thus indicating that that person is now obligated to live under that new covenant which was given by Christ. Now back to this interesting phrase in Exodus 19, and again repeated in Exodus 24. Listen to the phrase in Exodus 19, verse 8. All the people answered together and said, "All that the Lord hath spoken we will do." Well, that phrase was repeated in Exodus 24 later, when Moses had been up in the mountain and had received of the Lord what he expected of those people. And so in Exodus 24, verse 7, he took the blood of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, "All that the Lord hath said will we do, and be obedient." Listen carefully to that expression. All that the Lord hath said will we do, and be obedient. Well, the word all, first of all. They said all that the Lord hath said, not just some of it, not just the part we like. And it reminds us of the Great Commission. Jesus said, Matthew 28, verse 18, "All power hath been given unto me in heaven and on earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them into the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I'm with you all the way to the end of the world." There's that word all. In connection with the Great Commission, Jesus told his apostles to teach them all things whatsoever I have commanded you. Not just some of it. Not just the part they like. Well, when the devil tempted Jesus in Matthew chapter 4, he knew that Jesus had gone without food for a long, long time, and he said, "If you're God's son, command these stones to be made bread." And in response to that, Jesus said in Matthew 4 and verse 4, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God." All of it. Not just the part that's easy. Not just our favorite part. A great mistake is that some people select some pet verses and say, "Those are mine, and that's what I'm going to live by and go to heaven." We must be willing to take all that the Lord said on every subject and search our Bibles out to make sure that we have discovered all that the Lord has said on a subject. Deuteronomy, in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 3, in that chapter at verse 2, God said, "Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I commanded you." Don't diminish aught from it. Well, here's something I don't like. It requires a sacrifice on my part. It's going to make me unpopular with my family and my friends. But there it is in the Lord's covenant, in the New Testament. What am I going to do with it? If my attitude is like the attitude of those ancient Israelites, I'm going to respond to the Lord and say, I want everything. I want all of it. I want to live by the entire covenant. And when I find something that I've not yet discovered that is a part of my responsibility, I'm going to try my best to bring my life into harmony with it, because I want all of it. I remember James 2 and verse 10. James said, whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he's guilty of all. Well, that does not place on us the requirement to be perfect in our obedience, but what it does say is that you and I can't go through the New Testament and pick and choose. And if we like it, and it's convenient to us, and it makes us feel good, and it makes us popular with our family and our friends, then we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll conveniently skip over it. James said, if that's your attitude, then you're guilty of disobeying the whole thing. All, that's what these Israelites said to Moses, all that the Lord has spoken we'll do. We want every bit of it. We want to be conscious of all that the Lord has put there for us. Now notice how their claim reads. They're in Exodus 19 at verse 8, as well as in Exodus 24, verse 7. All that the Lord hath spoken will we do, and be obedient. Notice, what they wanted all of is what the Lord had spoken. We want to make sure that it came from God. We don't want any opinions of human beings. Jesus once said in Matthew 15 and verse 9, in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. We don't want the commandments of men. We want what the Lord has spoken. 2 Peter chapter 2. But there were false prophets among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bringing upon themselves swift destruction. Listen to this. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, their destructive ways. Many shall follow them, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. False teachers use feigned words to turn you into a commodity, to make merchandise of you, put a price on you, so they can lead you astray. Well, these ancient Israelites said, what we want is what the Lord hath spoken. We do not want the opinions of men. We do not want the doctrines of other human beings. We just want what the Lord hath said. In Matthew chapter 7, near the close of that chapter, beginning at verse 15, Jesus said, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. There's a responsibility placed on us to examine the teaching, the doctrine, because they're false prophets who are trying to lead us astray. The Lord lets those false prophets work among us. so that we can have our faith tested and make sure we're following just what the Lord hath said for us to do. Romans 16 at verse 17, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are, to whom ye obey, whether sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. God be thanked ye were the servants of sin, but have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine delivered you. Being then made free from sin, ye shall become the servants of righteousness. That form of doctrine. Obey that, live by that, and be careful not to be misled by the doctrines of men. When Paul met with the elders of the church at Ephesus in Acts chapter 20, among the things he said, verse 29, I know this, that after my departure shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. And of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples after them. Wherefore watch and remember that by the space of 3 years I cease not to warn every one of you, night and day with tears. False teachers. The reality of false teaching in the New Testament as well as in our day. False teachers, perhaps honestly mistaken, but perhaps maybe trying to create a following for themselves for other reasons. And people who want to serve God must be careful to say, I want to know what God says. And that's found in his book. And if what I hear being taught is not in God's book, I do not want it because it's dangerous and cause me to lose my soul. These were more noble than those of Thessalonica in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and, listen, searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. May God help us to have that same attitude. We say all, not just some of it, all of what? All that the Lord has spoken. That's what we want. We want it to come from God's book, and if it's contrary to what's in his book, then we shall not accept it. We shall not live by it. It endangers our souls. The attitude of those ancient Israelites expressed in their words, all that the Lord hath spoken. Listen, here's another part of that pledge. All that the Lord hath spoken will we do. That's an interesting. All that the Lord hath spoken, will we feel? No, that's not what it says. All that the Lord hath spoken, will we do? We'll carry it out. Jesus said in Matthew 7, verse 21, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. The one who does the will of God shall be a part of that kingdom. Jesus said, many shall say unto me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? Then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. False teachers, we will not feel, but we will do what the Lord requires of us. Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience through the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. Going to do what he says. So listen, Romans chapter 1, verse 5, by whom we have received grace and apostleship, Paul said, for what reason? For obedience to the faith among all nations for his name, so that people from all the nations can obey him. That was the work of Paul and the other apostles, so people could obey God. 1 Samuel 15, Saul disobeyed God. And he was told by Samuel, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. You can do a lot of sacrificing, but if it's not according to God's will, it will not be accepted. So, Hebrews 11 and verse 8, by faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should have to receive for an inheritance, obeyed and went out, not knowing whither he went. Abraham obeyed the call of God just exactly as it was given. He didn't add to it, and he didn't take from it. So, 1 Peter 1 and verse 22, seeing you've purified your souls in obeying the truth. Obeying the truth. All that the Lord hath spoken will we do, and be obedient. There's the attitude. I want to obey God. And when I find something He's required of me in His Word, I want to do it. I want to bring it into practice. Now I go back again to Exodus 19. And in Exodus 19 and verse 5, now therefore, God said to them, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then shall ye be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. That's what God promised. In response to that, they said, all that the Lord hath spoken will we do, and be obedient. What a tremendous attitude. May we all have that same attitude. We want all that the Lord hath said for the purpose of doing it. Thank you for being our guest today. Until the next time, may the goodness of God be yours in full measure.
You've been watching Dayspring. Dayspring is brought to you by your friends in local area churches of Christ. To request a free CD of today's lesson, you may contact us at Dayspring, Post Office Box 453, Tupelo, Mississippi, 38802, 0453. There is no cost for this offer. You will not be asked for financial support. You can also phone your request toll-free at 1-866-842-4139. Or you can go to our website at dayspringtv.com. Thank you for visiting with us on Dayspring. May your joy be full. May the peace of God rule in your hearts. And may the light of Christ brighten heaven's way.